everybody. Hope you're doing good. Welcome to another episode, and I'm excited for today because today marks the start of a new series on this channel. We finished our Masters of the Universe series, and hope you enjoyed that. And today we're going to be jumping into a new series where I'm going to attempt to redesign some villains from the Real Ghostbusters cartoon. A very amazing cartoon. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It was around in the 80s and 90s, and there are just a ton of episodes. It's kind of amazing how many episodes there were for that series. I think the earlier seasons are potentially a little bit stronger than the later seasons, but it's just a matter of taste. But it's all worth watching, so definitely check it out if you haven't seen it before. And so the idea here is we're going to be taking a look at something that is designed for a simpler format for 2D animation purposes, and thinking about realizing it more for like a modern game setting. So obviously we're going to be thinking about adding a lot more detail. It's going to be more of a rendered look, and we're going to be exploring some design process to figure out where we want to go with this, because we're not going to just take the existing design and copy it, right? We're going to try and tweak it, and I'd like to use the word modernize, but I think we'll just leave it at sort of a redesign. I think that's a safe way to put it, because I don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, and that's what's exciting about it. So I've prepared some materials to dive in, and you might be wondering, what villain are we going to redesign? Because there's so many to choose from, and that's what I think will be great about this, is that we can do several episodes, not just continuing to fully realize whatever we're going to do today, but more episodes based on villains in other episodes, right? So the one I've chosen to do first is from an episode where Slimer is... there's a birthday party, I believe it's for Winston, and he has this big birthday cake, and everyone's at the firehouse, and they're all celebrating. And Slimer comes out, and he can't help himself. He sort of devours the cake, and I believe it is Peter that scolds him and sort of tells him he's ruined the party. And so Slimer's super, super sad, and he basically runs away from the firehouse. He kind of goes off on his own as an independent ghost, and he stumbles across a big abandoned hotel, I guess it is. I can't quite tell what this building is in the episode, but he stumbles into this place that's sort of an abandoned, haunted building, and there's a bunch of ghosts in there, little creepy ghosts, and I'm going to pull up some imagery here so we can see. And so they're all just hanging out in this building, and they sort of welcome Slimer in. They're like, hey, you look like you need some friends. Come hang out with us. And so Slimer is enamored with this situation. So he comes and hangs out with all these little ghosts, and they're all pretty wacky designs, as you can see. Super fun. You can see that they're inspired by animals in some cases, right? But they're quite humanoid in a lot of situations as well. Here we got these ones that are sort of more of like a typical Casper the Ghost sort of style. The fun and friendly as you'd expect for a cartoon for children. But then this guy shows up, and this is the villain that we're going to be redesigning. And in the episode, he's known as the Poltergeist. I don't think he has another name, so we'll just refer to him as the Poltergeist. And he's a very interesting person. He sort of rules over these tiny ghosts, and his sort of purpose becomes more nefarious as the episode goes on. It's not just a friendly group of ghosts. Oh, surprise. And he's quite delighted to have another little ghost for him to command, right? So you can see he's got quite a wicked look on his face. Now for me, just talking about some design cues from the original, he's quite a rotund fellow. His face has almost like a pig-like inspiration to it. The drawing of his face changes a little bit from scene to scene, as you'd imagine in these cartoons. That they're not super good at consistency, but in a lot of frames you'll see that there's a sort of pig-like aspect to his design. And you'll see here that he also has a top hat and like a trench coat with almost like a sort of Dracula cape going on. So and here's another shot of him there. So you can see like kind of the skin tone with those ears, with this sort of prominent nose. There's this sort of pig-like thing, and it starts to make sense as the episode goes on, because what you realize is that he wants to sort of consume all the ghosts, absorb them all to become powerful. And there's this big reveal moment where he opens his trench coat and there's this giant mouth, which is an interesting design in of itself, because you'll see that there are these snake-like fangs here. The other interesting note about this mouth is that this is the only time where we see a mouth on his stomach, and from this point on, the mouth goes away and his stomach becomes more of like a membrane or something, and the ghost sort of just gets sucked into his stomach area. So you don't see the mouth actually like gobble up the ghosts. I'm not quite sure why it changes, but I think it would be cool for us to play around with both ideas. This is again why we're going to explore some design, because maybe we do go with something where there is a mouth in the stomach, and maybe there's another one where it's more of just sort of like this membranous, weird, ethereal thing. So here we can see him with the stomach that's getting full of all of these tiny ghosts. Yeah, they get getting sucked inside of him, and then he becomes this writhing mass of ghosts. It's actually quite disturbing. And in the animation, if you watch the episode, you'll see they animate all those things sort of moving around inside of him. It's interesting for a kid's cartoon. I feel like this stuff actually is quite scary. But if you're an adult looking at this, it just seems maybe a little bit silly. But the themes are actually, yeah, they're pretty scary. So here's the Ghostbusters facing off against this guy, and so they go through their typical routine of using their proton rifles, and they end up defeating him. But he's a little tough. He's got laser beam eyes, you can see here, so he's got some other powers. There's one point where he kind of like, I guess he uses some kind of like ghost powers, I guess, and he like raises the wood of the floor up that wraps around the Ghostbusters. So he's got a few different abilities, but I thought it was interesting here. He has these laser beams shooting out of his eyes. So I don't know, maybe we'll give him glowing eyes as a sort of a hint that maybe there's some sort of thing that can happen with those. So that's a rundown of the villain, the poltergeist, that we're going to be trying to redesign. So let's put that aside. Now, given some of those themes that are there, I've gathered just a few random references. I've got some images of like Jack the Ripper, some trench coats. I've got a few snake mouths because it looks like we might want to play with that. I've got a picture of a pig head. I've got some just various ghost and spirit-like images for ideas on that front. So I've got those off to the side there, so I'll be looking at those for ideas. And our first step is going to be, of course, to do some thumbnails. Tiny, simple shapes, not worrying about details at this point. And I typically like to do this with just a very simple black brush, and try not to get too lost in any of the tiny bits, right? So let's jump in and see what happens. Come along for the ride. I'm glad you're here. Good to see you guys, by the way. Patrick, Bango, we got you. Zane, you're here. Awesome. We're all hanging out. Hope you guys are doing something cool and creative. So let's jump into it, and remember to save often. All right, first idea. Well, I want to just kind of get my hand moving here and just sort of like get the blood flowing, dust off any cobwebs in our brain. And so there's this idea of this, well, proportion is something we can play with, right? But I guess we didn't talk about the bottom of the character. So in the episode, they do show the bottom of his trench coat coming down. I'm saying trench coat, but it may be just like a cloak, right? And it's sort of like, here's his head, and then it's sort of like sealed up, and then at the bottom it just feels like it's sort of collapses in where his feet would be, but we never really see the bottom of his body. We never see legs. We never see feet. We only see his stomach that gets revealed, and then of course we see his upper body, and then he has that cape going on. So this is basically the silhouette that we're working with from the episode. That's like the core shape, but we can play with that, right? Like, does it look cool if maybe it's fanned out? Are there like layers to this? Since we aren't limited now to trying to draw this in a simple 2D cartoon, we're not afraid of details. Something I'm noticing from like old school like trench coat designs is that they have sometimes these layers on the shoulders here. Like the shoulder area has its own kind of piece to it. And then if we're thinking about like a Jack the Ripper sort of look, well, obviously I think the top hat has to stay. I think that's like just iconic to this character. I mean, we can play with the details of the hat, the proportions of the hat, but I would be cautious about ditching the hat entirely. I'm curious about the idea of there being some clothing underneath the trench coat here. You know, in that sort of era and style, we would have something like a buttoned shirt with a vest, a collar, right? There'd be a lot of details going on in there that could be interesting. But we need to think about the fact that that stomach wants to get exposed and everything. It likely should look quite distorted, and I think I want to play with this idea of showing some of the ghosts or spirits kind of like pushing their way outside, because that's a super creepy key aspect to this guy. Okay, so let's see, we got that shape there. And something else good to do at early stages is just see how extreme can you be. It's easy to change your mind at this stage. So what if his head is this small and his body is this big, right? What if his body is like super big? Like what if it's like super crazy big like this, right? And we can just sort of look at these different shapes next to each other. If it's hard for you to see the shape, then just fill it in with dark. That works too. I don't think too much about lighting at this very first stage of thumbnailing because we don't really need to. But dark shapes on a light background do read easier, so this might be worth filling in. So if we have this trench coat open, then what happens down here? I'm thinking, what if it's like, if he's a spirit, then maybe it's just like some spooky energy coming out of the cloak down here. There's like some, you know, spirit wisps or something. And if there's this idea of like a glowing body inside of a trench coat, then you have this opportunity to do some fun contrast there, right? You have light inside of dark, and you can play with these little, you know, openings to let light out, and that could have like a really, really cool effect. Let's fill this shape in here. Just see how that shape feels. So it's interesting because if you fill it in entirely, you do lose the head in this particular option. So is it like, well, do we need to put the head a little higher so it's in the silhouette? We can cheat and we can cut it out, right? That could be something to think about there. The other thing you'll notice is that I'm doing this from a front view, and that doesn't always work great, but I think given this guy's shape and everything, I think front view is good. If you can simplify the angle of your thumbnails, that also helps. There isn't any reason to try and introduce extreme perspective to your thumbnails at this stage. Some designs, I mean, you want to think about what is the optimal view for what you're designing. So if I was designing a motorcycle, for example, I wouldn't do a front view because we're not going to really see a lot of the motorcycle from this view, right? It's not very helpful. We're going to choose a side view of the motorcycle where we can see its profile, right? We can design the seat. We can design, you know, we can see we can see this is way more helpful, right? So if you're going to do an orthographic, just think about what view is most informative and then move from there. Some designs warrant a 3/4 view, so you can think about doing something, in a slight 3/4 if it really warrants that. Maybe creatures sometimes, if they're like multi-limbed or there's like a lot of complexity to their joints and stuff, that might be something that is just harder to realize in front view. But again, for this one, I think we're fine going with the front. Got some options there. So the other thing you can do is you can mix and match, or you can, if you're doing a consistent angle, you can play with combining certain things. Let's talk about his arms, because he does have arms in the episode, and we can play with the proportions of these as well. Like maybe he has super long arms. We give him like long, skinny arms. That might be an interesting contrast to his big, giant midsection, right? Or he could have big, chunky arms. Let's see. Let's take this one. Move this down here. Maybe I'll carve in. Do I want to carve in? Let's see. Where do we want to try? And let's see if we can. Thinking about how we want to show the arms here. We just need to kind of indicate them roughly. Big fat arms like that. You could have like a thin arm and then a fat lower forearm, big fat hand at the end. So that's a way to play with it as well. So maybe let's take this one. Play with big forearms on this guy. Like Popeye forearms, right? That's kind of interesting. There's also the idea of maybe multiple arms. I'm not opposed to that idea either. So maybe he's got like different arms there. Let's try and keep our process a little bit clean here. I'm not super concerned about it, but just for the sake of seeing our ideas lined up. Okay. That one's looking interesting to me. I'm thinking about how he functions, and I'm like, do multiple arms really do anything for him? I mean, I guess he could sort of use it to like grab ghosts and feed them to his stomach. So that's kind of interesting. Like maybe in the image we actually show him, because I think in the episode he grabs Slimer with his hand, and I think he sort of like kind of like shoves Slimer into his stomach. I think is actually like a physical thing that happens there. So maybe, yeah, maybe there's like a ghosty guy. One of his hands here. I mean, you can play with different like tiny ghost designs. They can just be very simple. So he looks like he's sort of like he's in charge, right? Like he's got control over these tiny ghosts. The other thing that's interesting too is like I wonder if, thinking about his head, and I wonder if, let's see, he's got like the pig ears. It's kind of like a pig snout kind of thing. I have to play with the design a little bit to get that to feel good, but he's going to have a big fat neck probably. Um, I wonder if there's something interesting that can be done with the hat where it's like it's like floating above the head, like it's some kind of spectral top hat. Maybe it's like made of smoke or something. That could be kind of interesting, right? I mean, it's like one of the things that's tricky about a redesign is that you're so influenced by what's there, and there is some aspect we're trying to be faithful to, but at the same time we're trying to dial it to 11. And um, when you're trying to dial something up that much, you have to think about what are the constraints, right? Like what would be too crazy, and in this stage you do want to like push it super far until it feels like it's breaking basically, and then once you realize that limit, then you can pull it back. But if you're always like inching towards it and inching towards it, it could take you an eternity to really figure out what 11 out of 10 is for that design. So this is kind of why I explore these wacky ideas. Like, okay, maybe it's not just about the shape of the top hat. What if it's like a hat made of something different, right? What if it's not physical? So let's go ahead and save this. Where am I at here? Let's go to my YouTube folder here. Episodes, Ghostbusters. Okay, we can just call this. Oh, it's in this one right here. Yeah, okay. 01, cool. Yeah, by the way, this episode's called Slimer Come Home. I forgot to mention that that's the name of the episode. Okay, so we got this idea here. I kind of like this idea. This like spectral bottom and these sort of like bright elements inside of the darker cloak. I like the multi-arm idea. And he does have that crazy like collar thing, and maybe we just kind of amp it up. Maybe we give it a few like extra layers. Okay. Yeah, let's try to take all this and do something a little bit more detailed. So let's take this and scale it up, and I'm going to drop the opacity down so that we can draw on top. And I actually like this. I like where this sketch is going here. So maybe we'll pop this on. And the face probably wants to be a little bit more human than this. I mean, maybe should he be like smiling? An evil smile? I guess that makes sense. Okay. Okay, I liked the idea of that layering to the top here. Isn't this you guys will probably tell me, but doesn't the characters in Bloodborne have a lot of this kind of look to them, like these sort of cloaks and things? I feel like that's sort of a thing. And then I got to think about the transition here. You know what we could do? We could do some clasps. That sounds kind of fun. Let's do 3 clasps here. And then let's see, we had some of the arms coming from back here. So I guess we can put an arm. This is not, we're not really thinking about the pose too much here because obviously we're going to make a 3/4 version of this when we do the illustrated version later. For the thumbnail, we just want to think about what's a pose that will help us communicate the design. So we'll just do something like that. And I got to get his stomach in here. So let's do, I do want to do the mouth, I think, on that stomach. But I'm going to play with a couple ideas for the mouth and the stomach. And then we need to transition from the flesh of the stomach here to the like wispy, smoky tendriliness. So maybe we do like I don't know, almost like a squid-like bottom to him, even though it won't be like actually squid-like, right? So I think we'll use maybe some shape inspiration there, but but the rendering will make it look more like wisps and smoke and energy. This is already looking pretty wacky and crazy. We'll see how it goes. This is fun though. Any of you guys, you never got to play, but I love the style of it. Yeah, so this is actually based on the cartoon, the 80s and 90s cartoon. So I was curious if anybody out there has seen the cartoon or not. Oh, okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I didn't play it either, but I got the art book and I have it over across the room. I haven't looked at it too closely, but I feel like there was some of that going on in there. So the cloak or the coat or however we want to call this here is probably something where I'm thinking about, like, you know, what's one of the coolest cloaks in entertainment, and I feel like Spawn's cloak is just really cool. I mean, it's alive and it's got such a crazy shape. It's very organic. So I really like that. And the cloak does take up a huge portion of this design. So, I mean, not that we're going to jack that idea, but I think we can sort of take some liberties with the shape of this thing. And I do like maybe giving it some layers. We're definitely going to play with the holes, as I mentioned before. So one of the things you'll notice is that in the second iteration that I'm doing, it's a little more line-based, right? Like it's not quite as shape-based. So we can get in, we can kind of explore some of those details. You know, with us revealing this section here, we have to be a little cautious because, well, we don't want to show, you know, he's not going to be wearing pants, right? So we have to be cautious about this area. That's just why I want to make sure that we transition to like an ethereal body by the time we get beyond the stomach's edge here. I think that'll keep it PG and not look too ridiculous. Let's go. I guess so if we think about where his pecs would be, they'd be like right around here, and then his rib cage, and then his stomach can be this whole section here. In the episode, you probably saw when I was sharing those images, his stomach is just absolutely enormous. And so I don't want to leave that off the table. Like we may take this drawing and we may play with the size of the stomach area. But just as a starting point, this could be cool, and then we could show like, some gross like deforming bodies and stuff trying to pop their way out of his stomach. Um, but we could also play with the mouth, and this is at this point I think I want to like branch this. So let's take this guy and move him over here. Oh, I guess we should move him with his buddy. Oh, and I'll cut this out so it's its own layer. Let's move him over here. We're gonna probably need another sheet, or I guess I can keep scaling things. That might be better. I'll put this guy over here as well. And let's play with this mouth idea. So I have a picture of a snake mouth over here because it's got a crazy sort of shape to it. I mean, we don't need to get all the details in, but we just want to capture the base shape. And then the fangs come from like, I mean, in the cartoon they're like extremely exaggerated, but yeah, they're sort of like mounted up here on the top. And then we need to think of some kind of transition of the mouth into the stomach flesh. But man, that looks really gross, doesn't it? But that's the kind of, I think, what we're kind of going for here. I mean, there's clearly like a gluttony theme going on with this guy, with the whole eating the ghosts and then the pig inspired head. Got to be a name for those Victorian layered cloaks, right? There probably is. Yep, I am sure there is something very fancy, and I don't know what it is, but that's the look we're, I think, going for here. Let's try. Let's see. Do we like? Maybe we like it with only 2 arms. Is that just too boring at that point? Let's see. Let's leave this one without the 2 arms because then we have at least those 2 options to look at. So we have snake mouth. On the stomach, we have just more like. I feel like this just adds so much flavor to it. This mouth that I think we want to go that direction with it. Something that might be kind of cool too. I'm thinking about details on this cloak. Not that I want to put details everywhere, and that's just a design note for everybody. Is make sure you don't clutter the design, right? Like you don't want to have crazy amounts of detail everywhere. You want to have some areas of visual rest. But I think we're going to have a lot of rest in this whole area here. I think it's going to be a big open area with emphasis here and here. We're going to have details here. And I'm thinking it might be cool to have some like belt type clasps that are sort of open. Maybe they're like hanging, and that'll have like a little sparkle to it, because we can put some color cues in there. We could have some gold on the buttons up here, and then we could have a little bit of gold on the buckles going down, so that'll lead your eye down through the design. And it could be silver as well. It doesn't have to be gold. But if we do like a spectral blue or green for this area down here, then we could think about the yellow being a complement to that, which could be nice. And then I think this trench coat thing is probably going to be black, or dark, super dark tone, whatever. It's very, very dark value. And then in terms of his skin, I think we want it to go, kind of pink-like with the pig theme in mind. So it transitioned from the spectral, although I guess we don't have to be on the nose with that. We can play with that. There's definitely plenty of time for us to play with colors and stuff. I don't think we have to settle on that at this point in the design. Obviously, if we were like working with a studio or something, they may request to see those choices implemented earlier, or brought into the sketches, and we could do that. But not for this one. We don't need to figure it out quite yet. All right. I mean, that's some pretty good initial exploration there. I think I kind of know generally where I like to go with it. I think at this point, what we can do is we can switch over to our 3/4 view, the view that we would actually illustrate and render, and we can resolve more of the design in that phase. So let's do this. I'm going to just expand this page to be twice the width. Let's pull this sheet over. I could even put a little divider in here so that it's nice and clean to look at. And on the right-hand side, we can begin more of our 3/4. Now we got to think about what's a cool angle to show this guy at, and we can do something like we can be looking down at him, right? Like his head could be up here and his body could be like this. We could do the opposite. We could do, from below looking up. It's definitely going to make him seem a lot bigger and scarier this way, which I think is probably the vibe we want to get from this guy. But we also have to think about the fact that there's a lot of information and detail that's happening up here, and if we look from below, it's going to make that very small in the image, and the cloak and everything will be very large. That may be fine, but it's something to definitely think about. Also, it's a concept piece. It's not like a splash art, so we don't want to go extreme with the angles, because we're trying to showcase the design. So if the design becomes incredibly distorted or obscured by the perspective, it's not really helpful as a concept piece, right? So the other thing that might be cool to think about is, since we're going to do a series of these villain redesigns, we may want to think about an angle that will allow us to do many of them independently and then merge them into one nice ensemble shot. So that, again, I think lends itself to like a less extreme angle. More of a front, but I don't want to do perfectly front. I'd like to do a little bit of 3/4, so we can have all of them like rotated a little differently. Okay, let's just start doodling and see what happens. How about that? I like that approach too. And I recommend that you guys think about things as volumes before you think about anything else, because if the volumes look weird, then the rest of the details aren't going to help. I'm asking for trouble doing a slight up angle on that head, given it's going to be like kind of pig inspired. It's like, do I really want to do a pig in like from a lower angle? That's fine. We can do hard mode. It's okay. I just may need a little bit additional reference to hit those shapes correctly. I mean, the other thing is we could have him looking down at us, right? Like, he could be rotated in 3/4, but he could be looking down like this. Okay. And it might be nice to have one of the hands kind of towards us here. gripping the ghost. So it'd be like a ghost in his hand like this. So that kind of shows like implied scale. This is not going to be a human-sized ghost. This will be like, in fact, I'll make the head bigger and more wacky looking, so we know it's going to be a silly ghost. And then maybe this arm over here is like feeding the stomach. Okay, so if the stomach is out like this, this is an interesting one. Let's see. How do I want to? How do I want to orient? I guess I can just think about if I was if I was inserting a ghost into my stomach, how would I do that? I guess I'd have my hands sort of like, these are questions that you don't ask yourself very often. Hopefully never. Okay, so there's another ghosty like here. And then maybe we'll have like his, maybe we'll have like a crazy like snake tongue coming out, like sort of gobbling up that ghost that he's feeding his stomach there. I need to have this coat open there. And then maybe we kind of like play with his body, having like a cool spirity, swoopy shape. Like we can have some of the tendrily bits inside of that, but overall its silhouette is sort of like a cool like S curve going on. And then we've got his crazy like Dracula cape thing going on, which I kind of like that silhouette idea. So now this is kind of loose, guys. You probably are having trouble reading everything I'm doing here, but it'll come together. Don't worry. So you want to kind of think about also like making the silhouette not super complicated. You can have details inside of the silhouette, but I'm thinking about envelope as well. Like we're just trying to create like a triangle basically, which is kind of why this S curve works well, because we're creating a triangle with the trench coat or whatever it is, the cloak. And so if we kind of bend the body like this, it kind of completes the triangle, which I think will be just a good read in general. Okay, cool. Let's lower the opacity of that and let's see what we can do on top of this. Getting into some more of the details here. And I don't have any rules about how many passes this is, right? Like there's some designs and some subjects that just require more passes than others. If I'm doing something that I've done a million times, or something that isn't super complex, I may do it in one pass, probably two passes. Something that's really complicated, it might take me three or more passes to do. And you might hear that and think, dang, that must take a long time. Like that sounds super slow. And the answer is you'd be surprised how much faster it is to just do iterative passes versus trying to sort of like bash and smash one drawing, into a million different shapes. Just take that initial idea and knock it back and just try again on top. Try a new idea. Try tweaking it as another drawing. I find in the end it just sort of works out that it's faster that way. Okay, and let's actually bump up our resolution of this document as well, because we're getting into a point now where these smaller strokes are going to matter. Save our document. Remember to save if you're working on something. And is there something that can be done with this? I don't know that we need anything super crazy with the hat. We're already going to try this like idea of like a spectral hat, so I think that's already maybe enough for this. But I guess we can give it a little bit of shape, even though we're sort of looking at it from below. You know, I should have looked up was a an image of a pig's skull, because I mean it's good to see the full living creature, but it also can help to just see the skull, so you can think about how to maybe hybridize with the human skull. Um, so they sort of, the mouth kind of comes up. One challenge of working on a wide sheet like this is I can't use my flip canvas horizontally, because it'll shift this thing all the way off to the side, which is fine. It's just a little bit of an inconvenience. But if you guys are ever looking at some of my more finished stuff and you're wondering how do you start, where do you start on that stuff? This is, I'm showing you, this is how I start that stuff. I just start very loose and work from there. And I try not to have one area get much more detailed or refined than another in this pass. Like I don't want to make his head like super finished looking and then the rest of it is really, really sloppy, but try to kind of have like an even level of understanding of each area with that pass, so that each pass represents like a distinct level of understanding, and that the next pass clearly represents like an escalation of that understanding. Let's see. I did not conceptualize the tiny ghosts, which is probably going to be a problem for us later. I'm hoping they're simple enough to where we can just sort of design as we go. Maybe I want him looking, maybe his head is back. Is that? Maybe he's like a cycloptic. You guys probably can't understand what I'm going for here. It's very loose. Actually, I don't like the Cyclops idea. Maybe Okay, I'm just going to give him a very simple face for the moment. Just so that we know there's going to be a ghost there, and then we'll have his arm a little bit out like that. Just checking for tangents. I mean, it's a little complex to read at this stage, but details will help us resolve that. And then let's see, this kind of comes in. I like all these cool shapes that this cloak design can make. Like, I don't want to lose an opportunity to make some cool shapes out of that. Let's get these other clasps going here. Maybe, yeah, I like them stretching because it shows that there's like this tension, right? Like the stomach is like, bursting out or whatever. He's eaten too many ghosts. I guess that sort of wants to be like this. Let me go for 3 here. Rule of thirds. I think it's a good starting point. We can revise later if we don't like that. Maybe there are 2 in line. Maybe we give a little bit more of an aggressive diagonal there. So these are closer together here. Okay, I'm looking at some of these buckles and how they're connected. I guess it's just sort of like a sewn on bit. And so one side has the buckle, right? And then the other side has the belt. I think we'll put the buckles on this side because the buckles will look more interesting, I guess, than the other sides. And how many do we want to put? We could do 3. We could do 5. Let's have one here. 4 and 5. Is that too many? Do we do 3? Yeah, maybe we just do 3 so that we get some rest going on down there. Okay, that sounds good. Well, I want to kind of have these shapes a little bit more varied. So, let's have this one. Kind of pulling away. Actually might be a little bit long. Let's do that. And I guess we can have this one just sort of do we do a similar, maybe we do kind of an in-between like that. Sure, that sounds good. Thinking maybe his arms want to be a little thicker. This one actually already looked a little thicker, didn't it? Okay. Let's see, let's go a little bit bigger with that hand. Come on, you can do it. There we go. And then here's the head of the ghost. Again, he'll be kind of like yelling. Maybe he's like yeah, there we go. He's like trying to pull himself free. He's got his hands down here, like trying to like pry the fingers away so he can get away. And we'll make the body again just kind of like a Casper the Ghost sort of style. I guess if he's okay, we'll kind of make his pecs a little saggy. And then we're going to start the mouth opening. So, okay. Let's see, how do I want to do this? I guess we can do a shape kind of like that. And then we'll do fangs like this. The image I have of the snake mouth is not in 3/4, which is not great. We will do some interpretation. I mean, it doesn't have to be like on the nose snake anatomy, but I want it to be obvious enough that we're inspired by a snake. Okay, so there's a dark opening to his belly. And then we wanted the tongue to be kind of coming out here, so let's do that. And I gotta give it a snake tongue, right? Fork tongue. And oh, maybe we can play with it twisting a little bit. I mean, I know it's not ribbon-like, but maybe if we introduce a little bit of twist, it might be more dynamic looking. So I think that's probably a good call. Definitely have some crazy anatomy in a snake mouth, I'll tell you. Okay, there's his giant belly. I'm thinking we play with a two layer cloak here, where there's like an outer section, and then there's like an intersection here. It's maybe a little bit crazier in its shape. I don't know that I want to show the other side of the straps on this side right here, because there's so much going on right here, the mouth and the ghost and everything. I don't really want to obscure that too much, so I think we can just sort of say, well, it's, you can't see it, it's like I don't know, bent back or something. But then maybe we can kind of have like a little bit of it coming here, so we get this one represented here, and then this is going to just be, you know, whatever the other end of that belt shape looks like. And then another one here. Maybe this one's kind of flying up like that. And then we have his body. So let's have it be, we'll have it feel sort of like unibody as it's inserting into his torso, but then as it comes away down here, I think we can get a little bit more separated feeling. maybe it's like, ripped and torn. I mean, I think we can explore that sort of detail in the next pass here, which will likely be our final line art layer. And at that point, we're gonna have to figure out what these ghosts look like. So I might have to do a little thumbnail of the mini ghosts. Let's get a drink of tea here. Yeah, it's cool. Just looking at it from a distance, I feel like that shape overall is pretty compelling. Let's just flip the whole canvas. Take a look at everything from the other side. One thing I'm questioning is this arm of the ghost. I don't know if it's the best position for it or not. Like maybe it wants to be, maybe it's just better read at just creating a nice simple diagonal like that. I think that works better. I think the other one was just a little bit too bent. Is it worth doing something crazy with this? Like there's a second one or something back here. That is pretty outrageous. It's kind of cool though. So, like ground plane wise, we're talking about something probably down there. Let's move that arm down a little bit. Again, this is the phase where you want to tinker, right? Because it's very easy to tweak things when it's a simple drawing like this. Kind of want maybe a little bit more cloak back here. Definitely going to have some fun rendering all this cloth. All right, let's flip again. See if we like our changes. Is it just that this all wants to be a little bit bigger? Like give it a little more drama, have it coming at us a bit more. Yeah. Cool. Okay, that's a good call. And not everybody can see an image clearly with lines. That's so different from one artist to another. Some artists really like to work with tone to understand ideas. Some people like to just go right in with color. Some people work really well with line. I like working with tone. I think organic forms and forms with a lot of shape complexity tend to warrant a tonal approach. I don't know. There are a couple ways that I find are reasonable ways to work. But as of late, I like this sort of a loose line method, iterative line method. And then, we have to make a choice about whether we want to do like a clean line art that we render, or do we want to just kind of leave it at a looser line and go right into the render? And that for me changes from one image to another as well. So if we go into the render, then it allows me to sort of tweak the design tonally. If we do line art, we do get kind of locked into the shapes. Well, let's do this. Let's explore the design for the small ghosts first, and then we can kind of contemplate that as we're working on it. So I did want to go back to, I had those images from the show of those tiny ghosts, and I just want to kind of like take a quick peek at some of the ideas that they're playing with there. Okay. I think take a little bit of inspiration from them. Oh, maybe we should, oh, and probably, I guess we'll do another pass on top. Why not? And now we can get in here and we can make some choices. So I kind of like a little imp nose, and then a big crazy mouth, teeth. Maybe he's got like a scowl. And a lot of these have like pointy ears. They're kind of like gremlins, I guess, is the kind of vibe that I get from these small. Don't try to draw things sideways, guys. This is like silly. I should probably just rotate my canvas, but I'm being really stubborn. Okay, and then okay. So there's let's see the ears. Ears are like goblining ears, and a lot of them. So let's do like some goblin ears. Goblin ears sounds like one word. What would that would be like a cool? I don't know, board game about goblins. Goblin ears. They're like pirate goblins. So I definitely give them like an oversized head to get that kind of goofy goblin-y vibe going on. I wonder if, yeah, that's I think that's reasonable. And then I was thinking about like horns, but maybe not. Yeah, maybe not for this guy. Maybe the other guy we can give horns. What does his hand want to be doing? Let's see. Is it like in a fist? Is he like angry? Or is it maybe back like this? That's like not too bad. I kind of like that. Oh, maybe he has only 3 fingers. That'd be kind of a fun design choice, right? Yeah, let's go for a 3-fingered hand. Or, well, 4 fingers, but, 3 fingers and a thumb. The thumb is a finger too, right? So let's do that. And maybe his hand wants to just be bigger to match like his crazy head size, right? Maybe he's got like a big, crazy, goofy hand. I'm not trying to make these things goofy, but I think that the smaller goblins want to feel a little bit sillier than the big guy. That might be too big. We'll see. We can always change it later. Okay, now I got to try to do this arm heavily foreshortened arm over here. Okay, what does that hand want to be doing? Is that hand also like out like that? Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay. Let's have these fingers kind of going away in perspective, though. Is that maybe that's two? They're two in line with each other. Let's see. Let's do. Is the pinky off doing a crazy thing on its own there? Maybe. Maybe this is like. Oh, it's interesting. Maybe the fingers are bent on this hand. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Let's do a bent fingered hand. I'm gonna size that up though, so it's feeling like it matches the other one. And then we get a little view of the trapezius there. Then of course the big dude's hand comes in and like, let's see, we got to kind of think about drawing through this here. I guess it would be right. It'd be right up against it, right? So he's got him really tightly in his clutches. Kill that little mark there. Okay, so there's the sort of knuckles going on. Does that hand feel big enough? Let's see. Let's try sizing the hand up a little bit more. I feel like it accommodate the volume of that ghosty. Shift it out a little bit. Okay. Then we got the ghosty's body down here. Okay. Yeah, I think we're kind of getting some of the more tricky parts of the image figured out, which is good. Oh, that's way too much knuckle. Okay. I don't normally tackle. I wouldn't go tackling this random spot on an image. I'd probably work from the head down, but given that we had to kind of solve the design, I think that was why it was worth going there first. Yeah, so we've got one more ghosty to figure out over here. Audio's a little on the soft side. Okay, let's see. Anyone else feel like the audio's a little bit low? I want to get a poll on that before I make a change, because I think this is the same volume I typically use. We can definitely make a tweak. I appreciate you making that comment there, so we can be on the lookout for an issue. Okay, I'm looking at some other of the small ghosts to see if I have a idea on what we want to do for this other guy here. Sounded all right for you, Zane? Okay, I'll try. I'll do a little. I'll do a little boost. Okay, a little bit louder. Hopefully that's coming in a little clearer. All right, this guy, I do kind of like the idea of doing like a Cyclops. I feel like they go to that design a lot in that cartoon for the little, like, I don't know, background ghosts or whatever. So it might be kind of cool to have a Cyclops ghost. What is his? I guess his mouth shape can be kind of like, go for some crazy teeth. And then this guy, I think maybe this guy we give the horns, right? Like, that'd be kind of fun. Well, let's see. I got to think about the shape going on here. So this comes down and then it comes up like that. Epic foreshortening. Some kind of goblin-y. Oh, does he even have a nose? Some of these guys don't have noses. That'd be kind of fun, right? Just like a more potato-like head. And then he's obviously going to have his shoulders way up against his head here because he's like pushing up. I know that the underdrawing is like way off, but that's okay. That's why we're doing another version of this. Now I got to think about what this hand looks like. So he's going to be. Oh, I guess your thumb goes out straight when you're doing that, right? Like this. And we'll do another 3-fingered hand, or 4-finger. I keep saying that. 3 fingers and a thumb for this guy as well. Maybe the small finger is like has a little more tension on it. Uh, Capo, do you want to let me know if that sounded a little bit better with the audio a little louder? Is there anything interesting about this guy's torso, or is he just kind of got like a weird? Or maybe we give him kind of like a big belly. I mean, it's a little. I don't know if we want to give him a big belly and then this guy a big belly, but I don't know. Maybe that's fine. It kind of contrasts him. This guy feels a little more lean, so maybe there's something fun about that. Okay. Now let's see if we can resolve this hand here gripping him. So that's kind of the box that he wants to fit in, right? And it's going to be kind of gripping around there. And this is a situation again where I think I just want to make that hand bigger overall. All right. And then we got his ghost body coming out the bottom there. And we give this guy's head a little bit more volume. I kind of like the bigness that that other guy's head has, so we kind of go a little oversized with it. I think I want to take this guy's head and move it overlapping a little more. Okay, cool, cool. Cool, cool, super cool. Just take a moment to just sort of absorb what's going on. I'll keep that thumb hidden there for clarity. Okay, so maybe we go ahead and work on getting that guy's head figured out there. Do we see the, I'm just looking at this, making sure that I have enough information on these drawings for me to work with it in the rendering phase. I'm going to pull that pinky in a little bit smaller there. Okay. Some really bad tangents going on there. Let's make that shape cut there. Don't love that shape. I don't love that shape either. Let's see. Nope. It's better the other way. Okay. Maybe we'll just give it a little shape there. Trying to decide between more of like an angled shoulder or a rounded shoulder. Yeah, maybe we go for that. Bring it up a little higher. Okay, what's going on with these clasp things? I guess they're sort of like just diamondy shapes. You know what? These should probably be something fancier than just a rope, right? Like, what if they're like a linked chain? Like this? Is that cool? Is that too distracting? Or maybe the rings need to be smaller? What are the options there? What are the options? Let's see. Let's just imply there's like a little bit of a shape and see how that feels. Okay, so maybe it wants to be a chain that just has small rings to it. So I'll just kind of do a little swirly there to help me know that that's what we're going to be going for. All right, Mr. Poltergeist. It's time to figure out what your face looks like. And he's got to be scary, right? So we're definitely going to try to lean into some of that. I happen to love designing organic creatures and things like, demons and all. I mean, that stuff's just like so fun, so cooler because there's so much you can play with in terms of shape. And I worked on a game many ages ago called Hunt of the Demon's Forge, and I did a lot of the designs for that game, including some demons. And I had such a fun time doing that, and ever since then, I always enjoy when I get a chance to do some demon stuff. Okay, pig ears are actually pretty crazy. Like, got a lot of shape to them, and I like this foldy bit on the top there is cool. And again, this is just not like a just a pig head. It's like it's gonna have human qualities to it. It's a hybrid, but why not take some of our favorite things from the pig ear and kind of try to bring them in. Let's see, when designing faces, do I have an idea of what the face looks like in my head, or do you sort of think on the page, think in stages? It's a good question. I don't know that it's like super consistent, but I think there's a combination of things that tend to happen. There's a little bit of me thinking about where I want to go with it, and I think that that's represented by the underdrawing. Like, this is underneath kind of where I'm thinking it should go. But I'm also letting the new drawing on top allow me to find some stuff. So there's definitely a bit of a combination going on there. It's why working loosely is kind of nice at early stages, because the looseness can help you find some shapes that you might otherwise not think about. Like, if you have to premeditate every design choice, you're going to tend to do the same things over and over again, right? This mouth shape is going to completely murder me. It's just like super tricky. We'll see what we can do here. I want his teeth to be all really gnarly and nasty. Let's actually go for molars here, right? And then this again where like the pig skull would have been probably good to take a look at, but we're going to go a little human with that area. The render on this is going to be a lot of fun, right? Like, we're going to be able to explore some really fun organic rendering with this. Okay, so jaw here, but then jaw gets kind of lost in the pudginess of the neck fat. So we're going to have a big fat neck here. Insert fat bastard joke from Austin Powers. Oh yeah, he's looking grotesque. It's exactly what I'm going for. He's got like some like moles on his neck fat. So gross. Thanks for coming along for the gross ride, everybody. Appreciate it. Not every design is going to be gross, guys. This just happens to be this guy in particular. It's going to be a little grotesque. You were just thinking about, you've been into 3D printing recently, and you've been trying to find a good reason for getting one, and you were talking about pig skulls. I bet there's a bunch of models of anatomical models that you could print off for reference. That's an awesome idea. That's a great point. Yeah, you could print your own 3D reference. There are a lot of free models that you can access out there, and I think animal skulls, animal skeletons are probably in that collection of things you could find. nice. This freaking collar just comes from underneath his neck fat. It's wild. Okay. And then this is where we might explore just like a quick indication of some of the edge damage and shape that we want to go for. Also, too, you can put a little bit of hatching in if it helps you to understand the way that shapes are interacting. A sketch is really, it's a shorthand, right? Like it's for you to try to explain things in a simplified way, so nothing is off the table. Like even arrows and even words in some cases can be part of that, especially if it's a very like complex idea, complex design. But we want to try to be visual communicators first before we rely on writing things. Okay, I guess that other one comes out. Is it? Let's see. We can play with this shape here a little bit. Does it like bend down? And do we even see it on the other side? Maybe we just don't even see it over here. I feel like that might just be unnecessary. I do like where this head is going though. Like, we're gonna flip it though because I'm sure there's some like symmetry issues that I'm not seeing. Oh, actually, that's not terrible. Okay, good. Let's bend the nose a little bit. If we were doing like a attractive lady's face or something, I'm sure we'd be obsessing over the symmetry much more than this like crazy pig monster guy, but you struggle to hold the image of the finished piece in your head, so it's relieving to hear that it's permissible to do it in stages. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, giving yourself the insane challenge of trying to make something correct the first time is such a trap. Like it's you're going to see artists that do that. And when you see artists do that, know that it's probably something that they've drawn 800 bazillion times. Like the artist that I can think of immediately with that is Karl Kopinski. Yeah, shout out to Carl. I hope he's doing better. You guys can follow him on Instagram if you want to kind of see how he's doing after his health issues there. But yeah, a lot of his stuff he's just drawing in ink straight away, or a very, very like loose, pencil spaghetti underneath, and then he goes in with ink right away traditionally, and he just nails it. And it's like, am I supposed to do like, how do you do that? Like, that's insane. And to do that, you do need to at some point try to do it if you want to get there, but know that the stuff he's doing that with are things that he tends to draw all the time. Like if we were to do like a drawing challenge and we were probably to throw him something that he's like never drawn before, like, hey, why don't you do like I don't know, like a room full of anthropomorphic elephants playing saxophones. It's like he's not gonna just try and do that with ink right away, right? Like there's no way. So it's just good to kind of like remember that stuff, right? Like those artists are not always taking that approach. Depends on how familiar they are with what they're drawing. I don't like to put in too many heavy shadows at this stage because I want it to inform the render and not cloud the render. And so you're a little careful with that. If we were doing like an ink style image, which you guys, if you want to see some of the other styles of work that I do, obviously you can go check my stuff out on Instagram. I have a few things that I've done recently that are more of like more of like a comic book look, heavier like shadows and inking done. That's a style that I really like doing as well. And if that's something you guys would be interested in seeing me do on the stream, definitely let me know. We can do a series that's in that style as well. I gotta resolve these fangs, man. I guess they live inside. Well, maybe they poke outside the silhouette a little bit there. The thing is, how curved are they? They're really curved, aren't they? Okay. I'm looking, I have a picture of a rattlesnake over here, and I'm like, those fangs do look quite curved. They're more like that, aren't they? Because the weird thing about snake fangs is that they're like, they're dexterous, right? Like that, like they can flex their fangs, which is just so creepy. But yeah. So okay. I also don't want to make them so difficult to see that we don't really know what's going on there. So maybe we'll do something like that. And then the picture that I have of an open snake mouth is of a boa that doesn't have prominent venomous fangs. So I'm like trying to figure out, okay, when you have big fangs like that, how do they insert into the rest of the mouth anatomy? I guess we can just do sort of like a ledge right there that they kind of go into. And then we could even have maybe some like venom dripping off of them. We are Venom. And we get some more crazy mouth contours. Some of this stuff I don't feel like I need to do it all in the drawing. Like we can sort of resolve that in the render. It's another shorthand right there is like 3 dots means put texture here. Make cool texture later. And I will put a little bit of shadow in this deepest part of the mouth to make it clear to me what's going on there. And maybe there's like, maybe the skin sort of stretches across like you'd see on like a reptile mouth. Or, yeah, snakes and reptiles. Sorry, that's like a silly comment. That you would see in other reptiles other than snakes, right? A common feature. I'm thinking of like dinosaurs, right? You get like that classic T-Rex mouth going on. And then maybe there's like some serrated teeth going on along the edge here. And they have that little weird shape there. Who knows what that's for, but we'll put it in. And then we'll have like the gums kind of. That's the thing you can do too in a drawing is you can just put a line over something as like a contour to just tell you, hey, you know what, this is going to be a rounded bulbous shape later. That's totally fine, right? As long as it's not like distracting. It is informative about the contours and the volumes. And we're going to have some kind of like striations around the edges. Let's clean that up a little bit there. And apply a twist to the tongue there. What a twist. The original design, I could only find the name the Poltergeist as the reference to this guy. There could be maybe a more official name for him, but it's from the episode. What was the name of the episode? Forgot already. It's called, episode is Slimer Come Home is the name of the episode. Is that twist reading or is that twist just like really complicated? I think the render, we can make it work in the render. I think the drawing is like struggling a little bit to help us understand the situation there, but I do want to try and have that twist. And then we can have some like gross, like mandatory drippy bits off the tongue there. Gross, dude. I guess we didn't really draw the hat, did we? Let's put the hat in. Again, it's a spirit hat. If anybody's watching this and like, why is the hat not sitting on his head? Because it's going to be a floaty spirit hat. It's just my own little fun extra twist on this design. And we know it's a spirit hat because we have little floaty spirit energies coming off. Again, another quick little shorthand. Little motes of energy. And we could have that in other places too, right? Like the whole lower part of his body is made out of that, so. I didn't really detail his hand like too much here, like his knuckles and his finger bone or his hand bones. So I mean, we could do that. Put a little bit of indication of some texture there. Tom, did you see it? Did you find the original design? And maybe also to did you notice that he was called something other than the poltergeist? Because I didn't go searching a long time, but that was just that was the name that came up when I did like a brief search for it. I guess I can get. Should we get into some of the? I'm gonna give a little bit of definition to his arm. They're not. We're not gonna get crazy. He's not like a. His thing is not strength, right? He's not a strong character, so we don't need to worry about like crazy muscle definition on this guy. But we still want to be like aware of the anatomy, right? Yeah, it's definitely an interesting design. Like, there's some fun notes in there, and so I thought it might be cool to try and like do a more like thorough rendering and rendition of it. So what exactly happens with these? I guess it just it just ends, right? We need like a tailor in here to tell us like the way that this cloth stuff fits together. I'm hoping it's sort of like flowy and stuff enough that like we can kind of make it work. Yeah, that should be fine. I think we'll be good there. His name is Gash. Seems to be his name. Poltergeists are the smaller ghosts he absorbs. Gash, like, so G, is it spelled like Ghash? Interesting. Wow. Okay, cool. That's awesome. So I guess he has a name then. That's good. Mine's the coolest one though. Oh, thank you. Well, let's hope that the render comes out all right. But yeah, okay, so Gash is his name. Good to know. Good to know. And then this is where the buckle is on the end. See, the thing about it is that very few people know these characters. So like, it doesn't do a lot of good for me to like title the stream like we're gonna redesign Gash, or like the like the YouTube video calling it like let's redesign Gash. It's like because just nobody knows. So It's not like super critical to me that we always know. I mean, I like to know, but like I think for the purposes of the viewership, I think as long as we are communicating that we're redesigning Ghostbusters villains, I think that's probably the main thing that people will be interested in. I can put like some little straps on this stuff, maybe make it a little more interesting. In some versions, it doesn't look like a pig anymore. Yeah, he, as I was mentioning earlier, there's only one shot where he has a mouth in his stomach, and then the rest of the episode he doesn't have it. So we played with options over here. You can see with the thumbnails where we did one with a mouth and one without a mouth. Just thought the mouth was a cool design aspect, so we decided to roll with that. Trying to give the stomach a little bit more shape here. What a weird design. What a weird creature. What a weird idea. Interestingly enough, if some of you out there are like, in the art scene, have been in the art scene and are seekers of great artists, then you may have heard of an artist named Carlos Huante. If you haven't, I hope you go look him up. He's great. And I've been a fan of his work for a long time. He's still an active artist making great stuff. And one of the very early gigs he had as a concept artist was designing the monsters for this cartoon. I'm not certain which designs are specifically his, so I don't want to misspeak on that, but I know that he is credited as a designer of the creatures and monsters and ghosts, I guess, presumably, for the show. So it could be that Gash is actually one of his creations. Maybe one day in a galaxy far, far away, Carlos will find this video and he'll say whether he had a hand in the design of Gash or not. But that's kind of cool, right? Like to think that he had such a talented guy working on this show early on in his career. Get some stitches going on there. All right, we got a little belt coming from beyond the edge of the stomach on this side. I want to do sort of like a little buckly end. Sure, that seems fine. Give it a little bit of thickness. A little strap, something. Okay. We're going to put another one there that'll look cool. I keep wanting to do something with this hat, but it's like, I'm just going to put a couple dots there to help us remember to do some cool textures on it. The interesting thing is that, a lot of times drawings tend to look more whimsical. Well, I guess my drawings tend to look more whimsical than the rendered version. I guess because of just the shape language that I use or the mark making that I have, there's just a little bit of like a style to it. But when it gets rendered, there'll be a sort of a grittiness to this that I think will be cool. It'll sort of elevate it a little bit out of the cartoon realm and into more of a maybe like a modern game type of look. We'll see. That's the goal anyway. You found concept art for him, but it seems for a newer version. Oh, interesting. Is it for like? Did they put him in some other like game or something? If they redesign him already, I don't want to look at it because I don't want it to influence any of my choices. I want to just use the I just want to use the original cartoon as my inspiration. I wanted to play with like holes in this because, as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be like a glow from inside. So I want to have an opportunity to show that glow coming through. Okay. Whoops. Connecting the wrong things together. There we go. Do I want to do... Okay, that should be fine. I don't love that shape. Okay, that's not bad. There's a 3D mobile game, some comic art, and apparently a magic artist drew him. I swear, there's like no ideas that have not been done before. It's like impossible to find. I thought this was like, okay, this is like really obscure. Like nobody's gonna touch this. Like, nope, it's all over the place. It's hilarious. All right, well, there'll just be one more interpretation for people to look at, I guess. Theirs are a bit simpler. That's good to hear. Yeah, that was what I was hoping, is that we could do like a pretty robust render on this. So hopefully that will like somehow contribute to the conversation. Oh my goodness, we're getting close to the end of the stream here. Are we gonna be? I don't know if we're gonna be able to finish the drawing here. I don't want to rush it for the sake of finishing. But we've gotten quite far though. Like I'm really happy with our progress on this. Like I think we've got a lot of good ideas in place. We know the direction we're headed. So that way, on the next stream, we can begin tackling the... Well, we'll finish up any line art that we need to put in place, which will just be like, you know, some of the cloak here and the spirity body at the bottom. So nothing too complex. And we can start on the render, which will be really, really fun. And you guys can see my wacky process for rendering, which is going to be maybe a little bit more technical than you guys are used to seeing. I don't paint alla prima like some artists do, where they just sort of like paint perfect things out of the gate, perfect color, perfect value, perfect everything. I do it in layers. So I paint all my shadows, then I paint all my flats, and I paint all my highlights, and that's typically how I'll approach it. And it makes it so that my brain doesn't explode as I'm trying to paint, which, you know, it's kind of important, right? Your brain's kind of helpful, so we try to preserve it. let's see. I guess this kind of flows over here like that, and then this is the inside of the cape, cloak, trench coat thing there. Is it like cool to put another layer on this? Is that just like completely overkill? I kind of like the idea of another layer, but I'm worried that it's going to feel really like forced. Let's see. Yeah, because what does it do there, right? No, let's kill that. It could be just that it comes. No, I'm forcing it. Let's leave it. Let's try to do something interesting with the texture there. I think we can definitely have some fun with texture on this piece. Alla Prima scares you. It's something that I can do if I'm looking at a reference and I'm just painting the reference. Like if there's not design going into it, if there's not a lot of interpretation happening, then I'm just looking at it and I'm painting it. And I think that when you got that, Alla Prima becomes a lot more approachable. And honestly, like the sort of Alla Prima approach kind of stems from artists that were working from reference. Like, I think one of the ones that people think of a lot is John Singer Sargent. And it's like Sargent wasn't designing creatures. Like he wasn't inventing the unseen. Like he was looking at stuff. He was looking at like a model or whatever, right? Or a photograph or whatever. I guess I don't know his specific reference for each one of his images, but like it's not something that he was like approaching like a concept artist, right? And I think that that makes it more approachable. There is some beautiful energy to Alla Prima work, and if you're really wanting that in your art, but you feel more comfortable with a layered process, then you may just consider spending a little bit more time on those final stages with a merged version of the image so that you can inject a little bit more of that energy into the piece. That's kind of what I do, and so we'll see that here as this piece unfolds. I'll try to show you how that final step, despite us having a layer process, can attempt to inject some of that energy into it and make it look as though we spend a long time just working in one layer, but we didn't, right? That's kind of fun. All right, I'm going to just try and finish the line drawing because we're so close, and I think it'll only take another minute for us to get this feeling good. And I think we even started like a minute or two after, so try to give it the full 2-hour duration here. And maybe there's like some little like motes of energy or something around him. I think we got some opportunities to play with some cool like spirit like things going on. Like I think that we can definitely have some of that down here. Some little motes of energy. Like that'll be pretty cool. Let's see. Do I want to bring that up a little bit? I'm trying to think of ratios too, right? Like we have like, there's like this ratio and then we have this ratio, and I want to make sure that those don't feel too even. We don't want to cut the character in half. It's just a design thing, right? And I feel like it's okay. I mean, the overcoat here spanning across definitely helps us avoid the feeling of being cut in half here and here. So we're relying on that a little bit, which I think I'm okay with. And certainly some of the divisions you can get a different impression of the division when we bring in things like color choices and value choices. So we'll just be sort of aware of that as we move into the next stages. But I think this is a pretty good base for us to work from. It could be that the design evolves even more as we get further along, but I think that the base here is pretty solid. Um, yeah, I'm digging it so far. It's a fun challenge trying to think about what this character would look like in a little bit more of a modern media presentation. So with that, I think we'll wrap up here. So thanks everybody for hanging out with me for this first stream on redesigning the Real Ghostbusters villains. Apparently this guy's name is Gash. So we're taking a stab at Gash here. See what we can come up with. And I don't know how many episodes this will take. So yeah, we'll see how far we can get next time, but we'll be diving into the render. If you guys are enjoying the content, please consider liking and subscribing. I really appreciate the support, and good luck on your creative endeavors. We'll see you next time, everybody. Take care.